Let's go a little bit up north of Calgary to Edmonton. Coming off a heartbreaking Stanley Cup final loss, they did make some adjustments and some changes. Rob and I talked on the Monday show about the idea of signing Josh Brown to a 3-year contract and immediately going, "Pew, no," and waving him. That's not ideal. But, they have brought in some other pieces. They re-upped Corey Perry. They've brought in Jeff Skinner. Those are experienced guys. I'm not sure how much better it makes them. You have lost the two guys there to the offer sheet back in
Broberg.
Broberg was and Holloway.
Holloway.
Yeah. So there's been some changes. We can argue it whether they're good or bad. We're going to get another look at Stuart Skinner for a full season, who I think has shown to at least be a capable number one. What do you think of the Oilers? Yes or no to the playoffs before we dive any deeper?
100%.
Yeah, same, obviously.
Like, not even.
Yeah.
So when you say, you're looking at them and you're like, I'm not sure if they're better. They're
going to have to be at least 2 goals better.
Yeah, but this was from December.
Yeah, oh yeah.
The best team in the NHL.
Yep.
They were. Now, they didn't win the Stanley Cup. They came within 1 game of winning the Stanley Cup.
Yep.
But from December on, this was the best team in the NHL.
Yep.
And so I think when you are talking about them getting better and they've made some additions and deleted, poor Cece, he's gone.
Yeah.
But
they appeared to value him less than you thought they did.
No, they just couldn't afford so many great defensemen.
Talent.
Yeah, exactly. It's the opposite of what you're talking about. So this is the best team in the West because they have the best players. They have the 2 best players.
Math checks out.
What?
In theory, we're the best team because we have the best players. I think there's some logic to that.
Okay, yeah, right. And from December until June, they were the best team in the NHL. And they came within 1 game of winning the Stanley Cup. And I always remember the part here for me that will be tough. So they got off to that crazy bad start last year. That will be not only not happening again, it'll probably be the opposite, where they are so hell-bent on...
Do you worry at all about... I know when you win the Cup, they call it the Stanley Cup hangover. The Oilers had to play every bit as many games as the Panthers and didn't get the championship. Does that make you more hungry, or does that slow you down?
So it worries me in the middle of the year. And I'm going to go back to a situation that I think a lot of our listeners can understand and relate to. In 2007, the Ottawa Senators went to the Stanley Cup and had one of the greatest rides. Alfredsson scoring in Buffalo, and they go and they face Anaheim. Do you remember what happened at the beginning of 2008?
No.
They began the season, I want to say 15-2-1.
It's pretty good.
They were like the coach of the All-Star game in 2008 was John Paddock, who took over for Brian Murray.
It's almost hilarious.
Right? He was the coach of the All-Star game.
Where are you at, Corey Clouston? That would be later,
So,
not yet.
John Paddock got fired that year.
Yeah. Well, because it had been Brian Murray who came down and coached them to the final, right?
Yes. But my point,
he didn't want... I'm just flushing it out in my own head. He didn't want to stay coach, so he moves back upstairs, hires the new coach.
Well, yeah.
He probably should have.
I wouldn't say not wanting to. I would say...
He was being advised not to.
I would say that that would probably be the case.
Okay.
So...
Strong advice.
Yes. It's a simple conversation when you have owners like in New York with the Jets and the former owner of the Ottawa Senators. No, but they're all the same.
Yeah.
Point being is the Ottawa Senators were way out in front, and in October, November, people were crowning them.
If you want to crown their asses, crown them.
The next Stanley Cup champions. They've been there before. They came so close. Now they're the best team in the NHL. And it went sideways. Like I've never seen. I mean, I covered that team.
Right.
Sideways. And when things started to go awry, oh my God, they could not fix it. And then they fired the coach, and then guys went rogue. It was just awful. So I think there's a cautionary tale there. I think the Oilers are going to start really strong. And I think everyone in the first 3 months is going to call them, okay.
The Edmonton Oilers revenge tour.
Well, no, but this is McDavid's
mowing
time.
Everybody down. Yeah.
Like and everyone will give you the stats of, since last December to this December, this calendar year, from December to December, this team is like all time great.
And then you get to the dog days and guys get a little tired and you're sort of disinterested on a Tuesday in Columbus in December.
So what they do at the deadline to reinvigorate themselves and make themselves a better team, because teams now, if you look at the contenders in the West, they all will be planning all year long on how to stop McDavid and Draisaitl in the playoffs. Right?
If we can, I think that's right.
I don't think, everyone knew that McDavid and Draisaitl were two of the best players.
Yeah.
But nobody ever thought we don't have to deal with them in the playoffs to get to where we want to go. But now you do. Now, as GMs and players of other teams, you have to go through the Oilers to win. How are we going to do that? How do the Oilers respond to that in the spring? Will be every question I have. But when you ask them if they're going to make the playoffs, of course they're going to make the playoffs.
Just to stay on them for a second, is there anyone at all in the West, when you say, the other contenders in the West that are going to want, I kind of look at it like it might be only Dallas left who can hang. I'm not sure Colorado still has the depth. I think we're going to see Landeskog this year. Anyone's guess what that looks like after 2 years off. Can he get back up and going? You sub out Kadri for Ryan Johansson and then later for Casey Middlestat. I'm not sure that's quite the same. I just don't know if Colorado is still quite on that level. I think they can tear up a regular season and make some noise in the playoffs. I'm not sure they're still quite on the Oilers level. Vegas, again, you keep tearing pieces off. Now, if everybody's healthy in Vegas, which is always an interesting question, and sometimes they don't want you to be healthy until April.
Hey, if you're good enough to make the playoffs without people all year long, good on you.
But they do now have for a full season Hurdle, which is a hell of an ad. We'll see. But I'm not quite certain if they're on that level. I think it's Dallas and Edmonton. I think a clear cut above everybody else.
I couldn't agree with you more. Yeah. We always thought, I think, watching teams in the East, oh man, the West, they can skate. They're high flying. They're the teams boy, when you face the Western Conference, I don't look at the Western Conference now and go,
no, not anymore.
For
the longest time, the Sharks, the Blackhawks were killers.
God.
The Blues were
Kings,
killers.
right?
The Kings would grind the hell out of you. The Ducks were great for a long time, right? So
anyway, I don't look at them like that at all anymore.
No.
So I think you're right. There's a clear separation. I think Dallas probably is the best overall team going into the year. And then I think the Oilers, because of what they did last year and the experience, and it's not only that they got that far, it's that they started so poorly that I don't think it's going to happen again.
And the depth is the thing. Dallas is a depth team, and if they have an off night, it probably stays an off night. Whereas if the Oilers are having an off night, when you have Draisaitl and McDavid, there's at least a reasonable chance one of them's just going to go off and have one of those crazy nights, get 3 points, and a game that any other team loses 3-1, you've somehow won 4-3.
Exactly.
That doesn't happen for everybody, right?
So I think it's Dallas, Edmonton.
Yeah.
Colorado is an interesting look this year. So is Vegas, but there's a lot of teams that are in that mushy. I don't know that they're that good.
Right.
The Vancouvers, the St. Louis's,
the Winnipegs. We're about to talk about. Yeah. L.A. What are you? You've made the playoffs every year for a few years, but you're not getting any better. Now you're going to be without Doughty for a while.